Okay, so reading, it's called American Ground, Unbuilding the World Trade Center from William Langewiesche. Is that even readable? Out of Public Administration. This gentleman talks about the difference in the professions, the badges. What got my attention the most was the Battle of the Badges. Right, when after the Trade Center went down, the ensuing weeks had a lot of controversy about who was allowed to take away the pieces of the World Trade Center. And actually, let me give a little background on my knowledge of it. Okay, reading Rudy Giuliani's book called Leadership, I found it interesting. He did not mention the warring that was going on between the fire department and the police. Okay, I was looking for anything that would have coordinated with his book, and didn't see it. Okay, maybe I missed something. I'm not sure, but what I recall him talking about was how there was a mafia that was taking the steel and profiting off of the steel that they were getting, like free steel from, taking away the debris from the World Trade Center, and they were just like illegally profiting from the steel by selling that. He mentioned that. He mentioned how there was nobody who ended up in the hospital after the World Trade Center went down. You either got out and survived, or were incinerated after the towers came down. He talked about that. He talked about just the various command centers, how they had to move around a little bit due to the danger. But he never, as far as I understand, he never mentioned this warring that was going on between the fire department and the police. And he was a part of it. He was definitely mentioned in this essay a few times. And William Langewiesche is a reporter who followed around one of the big guys, like one of the captains or something. And he mentioned that there was just the fire departments, the people who survived who were in the fire departments felt like they had more control than they were allowed. They should have been able. The fire department felt they should have been able to just go over everything themselves, slowly looking for their fallen 300 comrades who died, and stuff. And the police had a different perspective that it needs to be like a limited access area for only the construction, and not really the fire department. They wanted to haul away the debris as fast as possible, but the fire department wanted to pick through it as slow as possible. And you learn the reason why the fire department is more interested in taking their time, because there's the argument that all the bodies were completely disintegrated. At the very least, everybody died if they were in the tower when both towers fell. But not everybody got incinerated to nothing. There were actually some whole bodies still found towards the bottom, because there were pockets that developed after the collapses. Okay, and that's what really burned a lot of these firemen up, was because they wanted to take their time to recover whole bodies. This argument, the bodies don't, when you die, you die, it doesn't really matter, but just for memorial purposes, for the widows and the descendants, they wanted to recover the bodies in the whole form on the site, okay, because it's an honorable thing to them, as opposed to the bodies being scooped up and taken to the dump sites, where then they would pick through the rubble in the dump site instead and find the dead bodies. okay, and there was a lot of controversy over that, and a lot of fighting, a lot of infighting, and they called it the Battle of the Badges, because the police had to control this, and police had their agenda, and the fire department had their agenda. And we're talking about two different bureaucracies, because this is the topic of bureaucracy, public diplomacy, okay, and that's they've kind of walled themselves off, either your cops or your fire departments, okay, and then a lot of other bureaucracies tend to be wary of the police too, okay. What was declared that the reason why it was a limited access site was for safety, and the fire department, being trained in this type of high-risk situations, thought that was silly for the fire department to be walled off for safety purposes. They're the ones who wall people off for safety purposes. They're not told to do that, okay? They determine the level of danger, and they're a little crazy and rambunctious themselves in many ways. All right, partly what led to so many fire department people getting killed and crushed in these tower collapses was because there were a lot of off-duty ones that showed up when they didn't need to, and it was declared that there was no fires that they could fight out of these towers. There was just purely a rescue operation. That was what was said in this essay was a little uncoordinated, okay, and it's unspecific. They didn't really have any plans. They just went up there, okay, really dangerous. The fire department felt maybe the towers are just too big to fall, right? Too big to fail, but a lot of them died because of just, it was hard to communicate too. Like, I think the radios weren't like able to transmit inside the towers either. But afterward, there was a lot of bureaucratic infighting, all right, between each other, and they had a meeting where the fire department's wives, just one meeting, that's all they had, because this one, they had a meeting that was so emotionally charged with the women, the kids who showed up listening to some guys talk about how they wanted the progress to go, but it became so emotionally charged, okay, with the women just yelling over the guy, you know, the guy's saying, well, everybody's incinerated, and the women are like, no, not everybody's incinerated, there are whole bodies, okay, you're a liar, okay. So yeah, some of the bodies were recovered in good condition, and they believe others would be as well. I'm not sure how it turned out exactly. That was the medical examiner. And then there's another guy, Burton. He started talking about how he wanted the operation, how the inspection of the debris and all that wanted to go. He wanted to go swiftly, and that's when a lady was yelling, "You're Mr. Scoop and Dump." Okay, Scoop, and that's a name to stick. And he had a difficulty with that, and then he got nervous and he gave a little smirk, and that was out of nervousness. But then the lady's like, "Oh, you're smirking at me? You know, that's real convenient of you to smirk at this situation," turning it into, you know, another emotionally charged outburst. And that's New York for you. I mean, wow, they have a unique edge about them. But I mean, this is an emotional situation, but it just is interesting to see how the battles kind of play out, how police feel that fire department is its own entity. It needs to be wrangled in at times, and that's kind of how the police deal with everybody. It's just they create the walls, and sometimes it doesn't make sense why that wall is created. You know, the law may, you know, for like First Amendment auditors, the law may say we're allowed within 10 feet of a scene, wherever the exact location of the scene starts. It's not like it's a perfect circle. You gotta, like, the scene is just the point, okay, and then there's a perfect 10 feet circle around that point, okay. The scene could be scattered. You got an accident that extends, many feet around, so then you want to give yourself enough cushion for a crime scene for that, a murder or something. It's not just like the head is the point and then it's 10 feet from the head. All right, there's parts of the area around there too that the scene starts, and that's where you see a lot of debate about trespassing the crime scene, trespassing the property, where there's battles between the First Amendment auditors. Oh, you're on the sidewalk, you don't move 2 inches over, or you'll get a trespassing charge, and there are those types of battles. Well, what's the reason for that? And a lot of people say, well, it's either an investigation or it's for safety purposes, okay? And that's going to charge up people's emotions, because it just doesn't make any sense. If that's the excuse, that's because it's such a common excuse to hear. Oh, isn't that convenient to say? Safety, investigation, those are words used so frequently, so freely, and they have so many different connotations to that then, okay? It's just because it's used so much, all right? It's like a sneeze, safety, why? Safety, it's as common of a word as anything, and it's gonna create a little frustration on the person who's being told that. You're gonna want a little more understanding what the real situation is, okay, and a little more explanation, and that's how the confusion occurred between this battle of the badges and stuff, okay, especially for people. These are two people, the two entities. The fire department is trained for danger. The police are trained for danger, okay, and the police, they're investigating a crime scene. For safety, this whole deconstruction of the World Trade Center is something that the fire department is really most trained to deal with. They're the ones who are paid to deal with this type of setting, whereas police, it's more about shootings and car accidents and stuff they have to really investigate. So how it was settled exactly, it was just, let's just say it's settled, but every day was definitely a challenge during the cleanup. There was always they had to move out, like people were putting up like memorial wreaths on the around the site. Just too many people wanted to come in and do the rescue operation, so that things had to be limited. That's just to try to get things back to normal. That's I think what the police priority might have been, to try to get things back to normal as quickly as possible, get the traffic flowing and all that. Tourists still wanted to come through the area and all that. But the fire department just wanted to make sure that their own people were accounted for in the whole forum from the site, as opposed to the dump site.